Hey guys, Darren Kelly here, Coach of Wise Ocean Pods, and welcome to a new episode on my channel, which is going to be called Trade Mode. So essentially what this is going to be a modified, shortened version of my preview and trade videos, which I've been doing all season. So on this video, on this series, we'll be discussing all the trade in and trade out targets, which are on the AFL Fantasy website, which is determined by you guys. I'll go through the list and go through to a certain extent players, and we'll discuss them one by one. Why I like them, why I don't like them, what you should be doing with each of them. So yeah, essentially, I did describe this in some other videos, but I'm trying to provide some shorter content for you guys in multiple different videos, just to, as per your request, just to provide some different content throughout the week here and there. So that's the reason for the rebranding of this video, I guess. So enough from me. Let's just get straight into it. So as you all know what I like to do, I like to go through the trade out players first because I think that's probably the most self-explanatory sort of thing. So the main trade outs for me this week, I'll probably be bringing the pop-ups as I go along. So the main trade outs for me, straight off the bat, injured players straight off the bat. So players like your Jordan Dawsons, you got Nankervis, you got Tom de Koning, and you got Jackson. I think is also still under a bit of an injury cloud, so a bit of a concern there. But those guys, get them off your list. This is not the time of year to be holding these sort of players. You should be in luxury season. You should be having the flexibility to be able to move those players on. So you just do it. You don't take the hit. You only take the hit early on in the season when you're trying to constantly improve your team. At this point of the year, there's no better improvement than actually having a player there rather than holding them. So I'd just be moving these players on. I'm not really buying into this whole Jordan Dawson. He'll become good for the remainder of the season. There's no even guarantee he's going to be back next week. So I'm just heavily in favor of just trading him. So he is the number one traded out player currently at 5.8k. So I think jump off of him. He's got 825k on his head, and his run's no good anyway. So I don't see why you'd want him for the remainder of the season. His form's been quite off in the last month or two. He's dropped some very stinky 57s and 40s and even a 60 recently. So I just personally wouldn't be holding him at all, and you should be one of the easiest trade outs you'll get in a while. Enough said about Jordan Dawson. We'll move on to people are moving on for Ari Showmaker. I like it. Just at this time of the year, you're jumping off these rookies that are sort of cashed out or at least not playing, and just getting that 160k off his head and getting it on top of a player that you're looking to upgrade. Just getting to that top echelon player, so that's perfect play. So love that. Tom de Koning is number 3 at 2.9k. Again, similar to Jordan Dawson, he is out for the remainder of the season, so he's probably even a bigger trade as such than the likes of a Jordan Dawson, just given he'll be out a lot longer. And yeah, so he needs to go. He actually even has more money on his head, surprisingly. So yeah, Tom de Koning absolutely needs to go as well. We'll get into some rock options a bit later for him. People jumping off Sexton. I thought most people jumped off him a few weeks ago when we saw that change coming, but yeah, he absolutely needs to go. That role is no longer good. He obviously scored a 48, and he played a bit more forward in this game, which is not what we want to see. We want to see him back waxing up like he did for that month or a bit longer with those 130s. So absolutely need to jump off him ASAP. He is dropping like a rock with price, so jump while you can. Nathan Kruger is out with a concussion, so he is one that can go as well. His break even's up, so he's maxed out in price. There's perfect time to jump off him. The only way I'd be holding him is if you really need a looping option. He plays on the Sunday, so if you're struggling with looping options, I'd potentially hold him. Yeah, that's maybe the only thing, but yeah, cashing him out, getting those 200k off his head and putting it on someone else is definitely a play. Even if you're looking for an additional player on your bench, you could probably trade him and another player out, and it sort of gets you to that mid sort of price player that you're looking for. People are jumping off Dowling a bit early, but I don't mind it. It's something I've even looked at myself, just given, I want to make the most out of my rookies. So that 476k can definitely get you up to that next premium, especially if you're still trying to get a rookie off field. Then he could be a ticket to get that final player off. So Yeah, I'd really like him there. Even the likes of Evans as well. I don't mind jumping off an Evans, but he's not on this list just yet. Valstrop can go as well. He was also concussed. I think he went out with concussion, so he won't be playing this week. So his cash generation is dead as well after scoring that 16. So yeah, he's one that can definitely go. Bank that 200k. People trading at Hayden Young. I still like this one. I'm starting to lose it a little bit more and more as the week goes on, just given it is such a friendly matchup. Even in the role that he's playing, where he's a bit more forward, I still expect him to probably kick a few goals, and that can really bump him up to that that 3-digit mark that we're so desperately looking for him, because he has dropped a few 80s recently, and yeah, we definitely don't want to see that 37 back anytime soon. His time on ground is still a much a concern. I don't like it when they have 70 in front of him, so I definitely can see the appeal of jumping off of him. But I just don't think this week is still the right time to do it. I think there's other priorities, but I don't. Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world. I can't hear that buzzing in the back of the room. But yeah, if you're jumping off him, it's definitely a play. He's probably the worst thing on your team. If that's the case, then absolutely do it. Toby Nankervis, like I said with John Dawson, out with concussion, so he won't be playing this week. So unfortunately, it's pretty much a forced trade. You can't be holding a ruckman given that we have a what I say, no cover as an R3. So, and I don't think this is time to use a cover anyway, just because that is going to cost you easy 50 odd points anyway. So, absolutely got to trade him. There are a couple of different options that you need to look at there. Luke Ryan, I still really like as an option. You see on the list there, he is number 3 for me. I really heavily think that he needs to go. The game style has gone away from him, and I don't expect him to get too much of the ball in this game, because it should be more likely in their forward line than in their back line. So it could mean quite a bad score for him. He did score a 63 last time they played, so that's probably just enough warning sign to jump off. So he is a big priority for me, and I did luckily trade him out last week. But yeah, there's that. Jack Cripps, it makes the list on number 4 there, just given his recent form. So he's dropped back-to-back sort of 60s, 70s. Not great. Even in good matchups, he is just not getting it done. He is further down the list, just given that they are against Richmond, and there is a chance that he could pop a decent score, hopefully sneak forward and kick a few goals just to, boost that score up. So that's probably the only scenario. If you have a few other issues that you're looking at, maybe you have a Fisher, or you have a Ryan, or you have a few of these injured guys, then you hold him. But if he's sort of your worst player, then absolutely I'd be trying to jump off him as soon as possible, because that role has changed, and he is not going to be scoring very well for you at all. A few more here. So Black Fisher, I think it's pretty straightforward. Number 2, he got subbed out and does not look like his best 22. Even in this game, he was on 65% game time and he only scored a 43. So he was on track for maybe a 60 at most anyway. So I think that role's gone for him. Kobe McCutcheon has come in and taken it, unfortunately. So I think it's just jump ship while you can. He is 738k. High break even though the North do have a really great run, I just don't think you could hold him for much longer. So that's why he's number 2 on the list. And just a few more here. Lawson Humphreys, I don't mind cashing him out. That's a good one. People jumping off Sam Walsh after his 3 weeks of bad form. I don't mind it, but I'm personally holding for these couple good matchups for the end of the year. I think he does bounce back eventually, or in the next couple of weeks. Maybe I understand that this week is a tough one against Port Adelaide, so hopefully he can bounce back and prove those guys wrong. But I can understand it from those guys' point of view that if he's the worst thing on your team, then absolutely. Oliver Dempsey needs to go. Joe Richards, all these rookies can go. People jumping off Jai Simcombe is maybe the interesting one for me. I personally wouldn't be doing it because he comes up against the easiest run in the next 3 weeks, so he should be, hopefully providing 90 pluses in our forward line for this. I think he's the F6 for me for the final, at least these next 3 weeks, and then maybe I can look at different options for the final 2 weeks. But for now, I'm happy to hold him. He should be providing plenty of decent scores, and I think he's going to be one of the more consistent ones for us for the remainder of the season. I'm not concerned with what his score was on the weekend. He did pop a 60. We saw this last time he popped a 60 and a lot of people jumped off, and then the next week he went 106. So I think that's just a tough matchup. He still had the disposals. Like, look at it. Yeah, 27 disposals, 23 disposals, sorry, which is not too far off what he was doing the last couple of weeks. He just didn't get the marks and the tackles that we have seen from him. So I'm not concerned at all there. I'd personally just be holding if you can. Look for other dents in your team. Like, look at some tags options. But I think that's sort of do it for the trade out targets. All these guys are a bit more unique, and maybe Zach Butters is probably the only other one I'd consider. As you can see there with the upcoming bad runs and tags at number 5 for me, he is in that list. So I've got Dacos, Butters in their sort of list, and I think there's one more as well that I can't think of right now. It'll come back to me, but yeah, definitely I can see why people are jumping off Zach Butters, just given that he has quite a few tags coming up. So I think he's pretty much guaranteed that he could be getting a tag from a Chincotta this week. I think that's pretty much going to happen. Next week is probably a bit more of a one of a hearsay. You don't know what's going to happen. There could be a plethora of options, whether it's a row bottom, it could be a Taylor Adams or a James Jordan could go to him, depending on where he sort of plays. I guess there could definitely be an option there. Melbourne not likely to tag, but there's a potential they could with Neil Bullen, but not guaranteed with that one, and then should be fine for the remainder of the 2 games. So these next 3 games are sort of the worrying signs of why people are jumping off. They also are really tough matchups, these particular 2, so I can see, jumping off if he's the worst thing on your team. And if I was in that situation where he was the worst thing, I'd absolutely jumping off that. You saw me jump off a Dacos last week, given that I think he gets tagged for the remainder of the season. And so far that's worked out. So, yeah, definitely got to think outside the box sometimes with these trade out options. But that's 10 minutes we spent on the trade out targets. We'll go to the trade in targets. So, want to spend a bit of time on this one. This video will probably be about 30 minutes, so we'll spend about 20 minutes on the trade-in target. So we'll start. I guess we'll just go down the list and then I'll sort of bring up. I don't know how to do this actually. We'll talk about some defenders first, I guess. No, we'll go through the list. Sorry. I haven't really planned out exactly how I want to do this, but I do have my regular pop-ups on what players I want to bring in and out. But yeah, we'll go through the list first and then we'll sort of bring up the options there. So Tom Stewart is number 1 at 5.1k there. So I still love him as an option. He is the number 1 defender option for me. Just given that his recent form, I think his last 4 weeks have been absolutely elite. His role is amazing. And honestly could pop a really big score coming up. I don't think it's the biggest week to trade him in though, because it is against North, but in saying that, he's not going to get much cheaper because he has a break even to 58. So if you're looking for a bit of a cheaper option, he is definitely that guy. It's really hard to sort of push people to go on him because it's just something you should be doing. He's got the most friendly fantasy role that there is, where he plays in the midfield, he's around the CBAs and around the stoppages all the time, so he gets plenty of handballs out and kicks it out of the stoppage, but he also tackles in there. But then he also goes into the back line and just absolutely racks up +6s for fun. Even takes a few kickouts here and there, so he's just all over the ground, and he is such an easy pick. And honestly, I don't see a world if he continues this role into next year, he should be one that we should all be starting with. So just a little bit of hindsight there. Absolutely love him. Get him in, honestly. Zach Taylor is probably the downgrade rookie of the week. He's a bit more explosive with 280, but he should spend a fair bit of time in the midfield this week. And he did so last week, even with Dawson in there. So he should provide a pretty decent score if you're looking for a bit of a full safe. He does play the last game of the week, so can't really have a look at it. But if you really, really need that player to be on your field, then absolutely. Besides that, he'll generate plenty of cash for you in the final weeks. I think at this point of the season, we're not really looking at rookies too much. I think a lot of people are just sideways and traded a lot of players, and really just grabbing the basement rookies as much, because you don't really need them to be generating that much cash. You probably have enough cash to get you through to the remainder of the season with all the rookies that you have on the bench already. So probably throwing up there, I'd probably personally just go to basement price. even look at a looping option for the remainder of the season. So, yeah, but if you're looking for more cash and your cash generation is your issue, Zach Taylor's probably your man. Ben Key's an interesting one, and it's one I'm probably tossing and turning on because his last month of footy has been really good. Like you see 99, 79, 110, and 129 in his last four. But I personally couldn't do it. I think just some of the media stuff that's come out saying that there's no guarantee that he's going to be the one that spends the time in the midfield with Dawson out this week. It feels like a bit of a sugar hit, even though it's against Hawks as well, who are a very tough matchup. So there's no guarantee he's going to put up a 3 point, a 3-digit score here. So I personally couldn't do it. Looking at their run as well, it's just tough. Like look, even for inside mids is what the one I wanted to show actually. It is very tough. Like 4 out of the 5 are really tough matchups. Only having Geelong next round anyway. So I personally couldn't do it, but I don't want to stand offense. I personally just don't do it, and I can't advise anyone else to do it. Unfortunately, it's a very lonely hill when it does throw a 40 in your face. The next one, number 4, there is Adam Chalor, which again I really like. I really like Chalor, and I do think he's a great option. It's just this week is the week of all weeks not to do it because there is a potential tag coming his way against Sydney, and we know that Sydney are the toughest matchup. So you really want to try and search for these ceiling scores, instant reward for these sort of players. I don't think he's going to get that ultra law this week. I think he's going to get tagged, and I think there's even a potential that he drops a sub 100 score, which won't be the worst thing. His floor has been like an 80 something. Like I think his lowest score has been an 83 all season, so it's not the worst thing. But it's not that instant reward you're going to get, and there's no reason why you can't just grab him next week when he does have a better matchup and a better run home. So I think it's just a bit of point chasing here. Obviously, chasing that 149 from last week. I'd just be a bit cautious and look at what he is actually playing and make your decision wisely there. I personally wouldn't be doing it this week. People jumping back on Caleb Strong after trading him out last week is pretty funny. But in saying that, I do think it's a pretty good option. We know how good of a run they have in the next 3 weeks, particularly. If I show that, sorry about the ads. Fremantle go West Coast, Essendon, and Geelong. So 3 really good matchups for midfielders. So this is probably the reason why I've held him for, since I brought him in after the bye. I thought the run was really good. So I'd be holding him there. I know he's been down on recent form the last 5 weeks prior, but I think with a few shuffles in their team, he's starting to jump back up and he's showing that 123 last week. So hopefully he can continue on that run, and I do think he is a pretty good trade-in target for instant reward. Similarly with his teammate in Brayshaw, probably prefer Brayshaw over Sarong just because Brayshaw's shown that ceiling. But yeah, it doesn't look like Brayshaw. Oh, Brayshaw's down there. But yeah. Dylan Moore is another one I really like as well. He is the top of my forwards as a trade-in. I think he's just going to provide you that consistency that we're looking for in the forward line. Even last week, didn't hit the scoreboard with a goal and scored a 92, whereas we're seeing other forwards like a Graham Myers and Brad Hills and those sort of guys that aren't hitting the scoreboard and they're dropping 50s and such. So I really think that Dylan Moore can show us that consistency while also providing that high ceiling games when he does actually hit the scoreboard, which he should in the at least 3 of these next 5 games. So I think it's just one of those set and forgets, and you can feel pretty comfortable with him there at F5, I'd say. So I really like him. He's a bit more pricey now at 827k, but shouldn't be too much of a worry at this point in the season. People are finally trading in Dane Zorko. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I think if you don't have one of the big 4 in Caldwell, Heaney, Flanders, and Zorko in your forward lines, then absolutely get those guys. Those guys are pretty much, I think they're 100% owned in the top 1,000 or something like that. So you just need to have them to make any sort of ground. They're way and above the other guys that we have there. People trading in Royal Marshall, which is a good idea. He's not my number 1 for trading in terms of a ruck lineup, but I still really like his options. It's just that run this particular next 2 weeks is really tough. So he goes against Essendon and then Brisbane. So both red hard matchups. So I don't think you're going to get that instant reward that you're looking for. Whereas you could maybe go with a Cherry or a Grundy as such. But again, he's shown some really good form. He hasn't dropped below 100 in his last 6 games. So really good form. Has shown a ceiling of 170s, 160s in the first part of the season, even 150 as of recent 2 weeks ago. So he does have that ceiling, and yeah, I think you can back him in there. Lockie Whitfield is another great one that you probably should just have. His recent form has been bonkers. The last 7 weeks he hasn't dropped below 100, and he's put up 120 pluses now, and been a really solid captain option. What does his run look like? Stop giving me ads. I don't want ads. GWS. So he goes Melbourne this week, so green matchup. Hawthorn next week is a neutral matchup. Not the greatest run, but not the worst either. Doesn't have any tough matchups coming, but doesn't have any flashy green matchups really either. So yeah, I still think you just buy into him. I think he's quite clearly F1. No, sorry, D1. He's just scoring very heavily. He is priced over $1 million though, and I typically don't like to pay over $1 million for these sort of players, but it is the time of season just to get those maximum players. So I can tick it off this week. Just do it. He is killing it at the moment. Probably a few more here. So Caleb Smith is another rookie that you could go down to at 203k. Did put up a 50 last week. Playing 72% time on ground, so I don't mind him there. Harry Sheezel is another one that I'm heavily looking at in terms of a defender trade-in. He has the juiciest run that you can possibly imagine, probably avoids most tags, and he has that ceiling that we're really looking for with two 134s in the last 3 weeks. So, yeah, I really like him as an option, and if I had the flexibility, I would absolutely be trading him in. Mana, if you're looking for a looping option in the forward line, I think Mana provides that. He should have a fair bit of consistency, showing he hasn't gone below 70 in the 3 weeks that he has been in the team. So he should be pretty consistent there, and could even honestly just be an F6 option for the remainder of the year. Just again, he's a rookie, so I do expect him to drop at least a 1 bad score at some stage. So just be wary there, but I still don't mind him there. Don't trade him in just for like a bench cover or whatever you want to call it. 441k just isn't. It's way too much. I would think it's not worth it. Again, I want to maximize my cash on field, so yeah, I don't think it's worth putting him on the bench. And to finish off, we'll go through a couple of these. So Cherry is my number one trade in if you do need a ruckman. So if you're trading a Nank or a Tom de Koning there, I think Cherry has the easiest, the best ruck run for the remainder of the season. So you're looking at here, he's got Geelong this week, which we know Stanley may come in. Then he's got Toby Nankervis the week after, which is a neutral matchup. West Coast, which is a little bit harder of a matchup. And then he finishes off with 2 very easy matchups in Tim English and Lloyd Meek. So he should be very consistent, and bravo to anyone that has just held him all year. That has been an awesome pick and absolutely fantasy winning stuff right there. Yeah, it's been the first time I've had him all season, so unreal. Jack Steele is another great trading target in as a midfielder. I really do like him. He's shown the last 4 weeks that he's back in form. He's running well, scoring consistently as well, and he also has a really good run home. So I showed that last week, but I'll show it again. Goes Essendon, so green matchup. Brisbane next week is a bit harder, but then it goes Richmond, Geelong, and then Carlton to finish it off. So really good run there to finish off. Should be pretty consistent, and yeah, just get him in. I think if you can, he's cheaper as well. That's 871k, so cheaper than most guys. So you probably can downgrade to him. Mason Wood's a pretty decent forward option if you're looking at him. Just I looked into him a little bit fairly deeply, and he's been pretty consistent. Like he's dropped a few like 70s and 50s, but I think that 50 was an injured game, I want to say. I don't think it was something that we need to be too concerned about. It also was against Sydney, so obviously the toughest matchup you'll get. Um, Whereas, his basement has been about 70, which is pretty good for a forward line, and has shown a decent ceiling with 131 there, and probably should have been a 130 on the weekend, but he kicked the four behinds and not, too many more goals. So I don't mind him there. Also has that good run, so he could be definitely a decent point of difference for you. Only 2% owned, so a bit ridiculous. Cheaper price as well. Connor Brown, people are speculating him to come into the side after having, I think, a 24 tackle game in the VFL. So he could be a bit of a different downgrade option for you at 200k. Although he's not going to be a moneymaker for you this week because he is at a break even of 76. So I don't think it's the best option. I think you can wait a week on that, especially because they play against the Giants as well. I think you got other options there. Like I said, Andy Brayshaw, like Caleb Strong, is a very good matchup. Showing the ceiling, what he's gone 136, 146, and 120 in his last five. A couple 80s in there, but yeah, he's definitely shown a big ceiling and a bit more consistent now than what he was at the start of the season, where he was only put up a couple 90s. But yeah, definitely like him there. And I think that'll sort of do it for trades ins. We'll just bring up my pop ups and we'll discuss them all again. So, defenders, first of all, I really like Tom Stewart as the main trade in target. There's probably a question whether you go him being a cheaper option or you just go to the top like a Tom, a Whitfield or a Sheasel as such. I personally would just be going down to Tom Stewart because he has shown he's got that consistency and he's got that such a flexible role that it doesn't. If he's getting attention in one game, he's not scoring in one asset of the game. He can just switch to any sort of asset and he can do it anywhere. So I'd personally just be saving that coin and go to him. I think he's about 100k cheaper than a Sheasel. So I really like him there at number one for defenders. Number two is Harry Sheasel with just that run matchup is ridiculous. We showed you before. Geelong, Richmond, West Coast. Very fruitful. Should absolutely kill it. And most people have him in already. Jordan Ridley's there at number three, just given that he has the St Kilda matchup this week. So, a bit of a smoky one that I looked into a little bit. He has St Kilda this week, and then he goes into Fremantle next week, who are both very green matchups. So, a bit of a short term play, but definitely could work out in your favour. This time of year, it's fine to go for these sort of short-term plays where you can just flick them on after a couple of weeks, hoping that not too much carnage comes your way. Yeah, he should definitely provide some very big ceiling games, as we've seen from him. He's gone 132, 118, 111, so definitely has that potential to have a pretty big game, but then also has the potential to go, 48. So I think he's only dropped that 48 once, and besides that, his lowest score was at 84, so he should be a fairly safe one for us. So there's him at number three. Besides that, I do like a Sinclair, similar run to Jack Steele. Depending on, it's just he's further down the list because I don't know what role he's playing. There's talks that Wangani Malera might spend more time in the midfield. So where does that leave Jack Sinclair? Does he go to the back line? We've seen him win the back line. He hasn't scored as well throughout the season. Just look at it. There's a couple 70s, a couple 60s, even a 50 in there. But he has popped up for a few ceiling games with a 135, a 156 as such. So he's a really hard one to read. But yeah, I don't mind him there if you're looking for a bit more of a unique player. I think he's only at 12%. So don't mind him there. And finally is Newman. This is a bit of a forecast for next week, I think. I don't particularly like him this week because he comes up against Port Adelaide, which is a tough matchup. His next 4 weeks really open up. So he goes Pies, Hawthorn, West Coast, and then St Kilda in the last 4. So those could be very, very fruitful for him. So I don't mind jumping early, but it's only worst case scenario if you can't foresee yourself having many other issues. You jump early and you sort of stay one week ahead of the curb because most people will probably trade him in next week, I would have thought. But that's enough about defenders. We'll talk about some midfielders quickly. So midfielders, Andy Brayshaw is my number one there. Probably a bit controversial, but I think he's shown enough ceiling and consistency that he should give you that instant reward this week. Price that, just above 900k, so it's not like it's super high price. So I really like him there. Has a great run, like I said, so he should be good to be held for the next 3 weeks. He's got West Coast, Essendon, and Geelong. And I don't see him copying any attention in any of those games because the attention should go to a Sarong rather than a Brayshaw. So he should just be open and above. And he's showing that thirst for the ball now. So he's really hunting for those tackles and getting those marks around the ground as well. So absolutely loving what he's doing. And if I could get him in, I would. Number 2 is Josh Dunkley. I'm not scared off by what he did on the weekend with that 61. I think he just bounces back pretty quickly, and he's even a captain option this week for me. He's absolutely killing it. So just you don't have to look far to see what he's capable of. With like 158, 140, 118, and 150s all around. So he is definitely one I'd be jumping on. It's very rare that you're going to be able to jump on him at below $1 million. So I think you just do it if you can. If you have the money free, he is definitely one I'd be jumping on. Good run as well, which I didn't touch on. Got St Kilda next week, so that could be pretty nice for him. Only has one tough matchup to remain at the end of the season, which is GWS. So besides that, it's pretty much all green or neutral. So love him there. That's why he's number 2. Number 3, Jack Steele, my boy. Everyone my boy these days, but I did trade him in last week. Like I said, has a great run, finish off the season, has shown that he is back in form and running healthy again, so we know what he's capable of when he's up and running. And who knows what St Kilda are going to do with the remainder of the season. They're sort of not playing for anything anymore. They're not in the finals contention. They're more so just probably going to play with the ball, keep injury free, so that could mean a lot of waxing. We've seen some high marking tallies from him, so that could definitely play in his favour a lot more. So that's why I really like him. I had the 31 disposals last week as well, so getting plenty of the ball in his hand and even stuck forward for a goal. Forward. Went American there for some reason. Number 4 is Trelaw. He's further down the list. He would be up further, but just given the matchup this week, I don't particularly like it. But I think given how unique he is, he needs to be on the list anyway. So yeah, like I said before, just not this week is my preference. So if you can wait till next week, I think that's the play. But if you're really bullish on him and you like him, then just jump on. He has been awesome all year. And similar to Nick Newman, Noah Anderson also makes my list at number 5, but it's more of a foreshadow for next week. I really like Noah Anderson because his run really opens up. So he goes into West Coast, Essendon, Melbourne, and Richmond to finish off. So probably one of the easiest runs you'll get to finish off. If I look at that here, yeah, all green for the remainder of the season after this week. So wouldn't grab him this week, would wait till next week, and then he could definitely put up some very big ceiling scores for you. Looking back through his scores, he's really just struggled against those tough matchups. So GWS tough matchup 178, Fremantle tough inside mid 76, Carlton tough matchup 67, North tough matchup 69. Sydney, tough matchup 69 as well. So when he does have those easy matchups, he does score very well. So I particularly think he goes over 100, if not 110 to finish off the season. And even so, he's been averaging 104 for all season. So he should be another really good option for us next week. That's enough about mids. We'll move on to rucks real quick. I think there's only a couple options that we need to discuss here. So Tristan Cherry is my number 1. As much as I hate to say it, after not owning him all season, I've been forced to grab him because he has the easiest run home. He's shown the ceiling. He's shown the consistency. He just doesn't care. He's just absolutely killing it. So he should be the one you grab. Yeah. I think it's pretty straightforward. If you don't have either Cherry or Marshall, you need to grab one of them. And more than likely you own one of them, you just grab the other one, right? So I think we'll all pretty much end up having the same rucks to finish off the year, which is a little bit disappointing with, there was about 4 or 5 different options there to think about, but now we're sort of down to 2 or 3. But yeah, enough said about Cherry. Marshall, I did say about him before, but he has 2 tough matchups coming, so I don't think you're going to get the instant reward that you're looking for. I think you may, get some decent, like a decent 100 score, but you're not going to get that 150 that you're looking for, I don't think. Whereas there's a potential that Cherry could do that this week against a Sam De Koning on the weekend at North. So I just think I personally prefer going to Cherry, just knowing that his run's more on the beneficial side for the remainder of the season. Whereas, yeah, Marshall definitely has 2 tough matchups in the next 2 weeks. And I also threw in Gorn there at number 3 if you're really looking for a point of difference for the remainder of the season. We know he's just coming back from what was it, concussion, an ankle injury, like a shin or something like that. No, it was a fracture in his foot, I believe. So he's still a bit proppy, but he definitely could provide some decent scoring for you to the end of the season. He comes up against, if I go to Ruck here, he goes. So Briggs next week should be a really good matchup. Then he goes into Tim English. Then he goes into either a Sweet or Soldo. Both are a really good matchup anyway. Then into a Wits and finishes off with Darcy Cameron. So only 1 tough matchup for the remainder of the season. So it could definitely be a point of difference for you. And we have seen some really high ceiling scores from him. Like he's gone 150 multiple times this season. Lots of 130s as well. So if he can get back to that form, which hopefully he goes back to after having a couple weeks rest, then he could definitely be a play for you and be very unique. So something I have looked at, and I look. He had him in my team for about 2 seconds, but then I just went against it and just gonna go with Cherry just to finish off the year, just to say I've owned him. But finally, we'll go into the mids, probably where most people want to be seeing midfielders. Sorry, forwards. I think I said forwards. Dylan Moore is my number 1 there. Like I said, he is probably just going to be the most consistent forward for us as in that forward line. So besides the big 4, like I named, I think he's easily probably F6, F5 for us. So yeah, he is definitely one I'd be jumping on. Has pretty good matchups as well with Richmond and North in the last 2, so he should probably kick a fair few goals. Even this week should probably hopefully kick a few goals against Adelaide. He did kick 5 against Adelaide last time they played, so that's a pretty decent sign. Number 2, I've got Mason Wood there. A bit of a unique one, but I really like his run and I like what he's been doing, especially on that wing. So he's finding plenty of marks. And we've seen it last year, right? He went pretty ballistic last year, putting up a couple 130s. So we have seen it previously. He does regularly put up these, double figure marks games. So if he can do that for the end of the season, which obviously has a good run, then definitely could be a pretty decent option for us and has a pretty high floor as well. So he is my number 2 there. Graham Miser still makes my number 3, even though he put up a really low score on the weekend. I think that's what you're going to get with Miser. Sometimes you have these lower scores where he doesn't get on the board, whereas looking at his run, he goes North, Crows, Fremantle, St Kilda, and West Coast. So plays 4 really low teams that he should be able to hit the scoreboard quite heavily and put up a ceiling score like he was seeing with his 116s, 115s and such. So probably not the highest ceiling that we have in terms of like a Moore or a Wood, but probably a bit of a higher ceiling given that those matchups are very friendly for him. And number 4, I have Ben Keys. Bit lower just because I'm not confident that he plays in the midfield, even though his last month of form has been really good. I just don't think it continues, and there's definitely a chance that this week against Hawthorn he could be up forward, and that is a very tough matchup for them. So I'm personally staying away from it. It would take a brave coach to do it, but 4.2k coaches doing it, so best of luck to him. And I've thrown Charlie Curnow in there at number 5. Just if I can spell his name correctly. God damn. No? Did I spell it wrong? I did spell it wrong. Curnow. God damn. Just really looking at these full forward options now, just to finish off the year. He's cheaper price. He's been really hitting the scoreboard recently. With he hasn't missed a goal all season. Like he's always kicked a couple. yeah, he's only had one game where he's kicked one. Every other game he's kicked two or more. So which is just ridiculous, and why he's a common medalist, a multiple common medalist at that. So finishing off the year, he goes Collingwood, easy matchup. Hawthorn probably should be an easy matchup because they should win that game. Eagles should smash them, probably kick his bag, and even St Kilda could even kick a bag. So really like him to finish off the year. He could provide some pretty good ceiling games for you, and if not, he's providing good 70s or 80s, if not a bit more. So he's a bit of a sneaky one if you're looking for a bit of a unique option. Surprisingly, he's at 8.5%. I did not realize that. But yeah, that will sort of do it for my trade talk video. So my trade mode, we'll finish up there. What am I doing? Like I said, I think I've got some Nankervis to Cherry at the moment. Trades really haven't changed much from Monday at all, so it will either be waiting for Evans to play on the Friday night, seeing how he goes. If he goes well, then I'll probably go to trade out of Rivers after just trading him in, and then I'll probably switch him to be in the forward line and get on a Dylan Moore here. Just a bit more luxury trade. So that'll probably more than likely be my trade if Evans can pop a decent score. If not, then I'll have to do a bit of a tricky move in the forward line because I do still need an F6, but I don't think I'll be able to get to a Dylan Moore with the money that I have in the bank at the moment. So, but yeah, that will sort of do it for today's video. Hopefully you've enjoyed the new episode of how we run this thing. Please provide any feedback that you have. Hopefully it's just more informational rather than back and forth with switching and turning. So yeah, please leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I really do appreciate everything that you guys do for the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.